Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another episode. I'm really excited because as I was prepping for today, I was planning on having a completely different conversation, actually, a conversation about intuition. And my intuition guided me to share something totally different with you, kind of giving you a behind the scenes peek at something that's been happening in my world. And so, the name of the episode is probably going to be something like Healing the Land. I'd be thinking, what the heck is going on? But to give you guys some backstory, my family and I moved just under a year ago. We actually moved back to my husband's hometown where he was born and raised, which was a pretty big shift for me, for our family. We left my family and a lot of like my core support system to come here. And there's been so many blessings. One of the blessings actually being that we purchased a very dreamy home. Like right now, I'm in my home office and I am looking outside my window and it looks like a tropical paradise. Like it is very, very dreamy. There's another very fun manifestation story a few months before we went into escrow and kind of went through the whole process of purchasing this home. My husband and I were on a road trip and I pulled out my notebook and I wrote the words dream house at the very top of the list, made a list of probably 10 to 12 different things on it. And these were not like non-negotiables. These were like the dreamiest things that you could possibly imagine, like really dreaming big. And less than 2 months after making that list, we found this home on Zillow, essentially bought the home sight unseen, which is kind of crazy. Like I had only ever seen photos of it online. I had never been to this house until we were already living in it. Like transaction complete, money paid, hubby came before the kids and I. So that's just a little bit of context into where we're going together today. So my family and I move, and just like with any change, there's a lot to navigate. But I want to say it was like 3 months into living here. I'm going to get really vulnerable with you today. I was not feeling well. Like I was not feeling like myself. And when I say not feeling like myself, it was this intense heaviness, just this density that I was feeling in my body, in my mind, in my spirit. And I was having a hard time pinpointing it. And I was chalking it up to, the change, which could totally be a factor. I'm a mama with 3 kids. There's a lot to do there. A business owner with a thriving, successful business, a full client roster. Again, having stepped away from my support system. So I had chalked up this heaviness, this density to everything that had been going on. But it almost felt like it was getting harder and harder to deal with every day on like a daily basis. And I actually found myself very regularly, multiple times a week, breaking down and crying. And I couldn't figure out why. And I was wanting to understand. And I had a feeling that there was something deeper going on, but I didn't know what it was. And so I want to get like really specific with the dates here because there's something significant about this. So it happened to be a Monday and it was April 1st. So like brand new week, brand new month. And one of my closest friends and I, we try to catch up once a week. And that hadn't happened in several weeks. And so instead of like our 15-minute catch up, we had set aside nearly an hour together. So we're going back and forth. And I don't know why, but I waited until the last 5 minutes to share my entire heart with her. And I let her in to what was going on and conversations I was having with my husband and how I was honestly feeling scared. Can you think of a time when you were feeling so unlike yourself for so long that you start to question, am I ever going to feel like me again? Or like, is this just my new normal? Ooh, that gives me chills to say that out loud because that can be, if you sit in that place long enough, that is a very scary place to be. So similar to me, I attract a lot of very intuitive, spiritual, empathic people. And I happened to be on Zoom with my friend Bethany on this day, and I was telling her what was going on, and she gets this kind of like blank look, like she had seen a ghost, not a blank look, but like the color starts leaving her body. And she goes, "There's something I'm supposed to tell you, and I'm scared to tell you this." I'm like, I got chills instantly. And I'm like, what is it? And she starts getting emotional. Like her eyes start to water and her voice starts to crack. And she says, "You're living in darkness. Something is trying to take your light." And I have this very visceral experience, kind of start shaking a little bit and don't know what to do with this information. And instantly, so something to know about Bethany and I, we're just going to really lay it out today. One of the many things that we have in common, aside from lots of values and beliefs and the fact that we're both moms of three, is that I consider us believers. So I consider us women of faith. We have a strong faith in what we use the term God. We call our higher power God. Other people call it something different. And so I know that Bethany and I have had some conversations around different metaphysical things. Like I'm surrounded all the time by crystals and decks and feathers and things from nature. And there are some people who believe that those things, if you are going to believe in God, then you can't use things like that. And that has never been part of my reality. The way that I view metaphysical tools like oils and crystals and pendulums and my smudge wand is they're things that I genuinely feel bring me closer to my relationship with God and to my faith. So at first she said that, I was like, is she trying to tell me that I need to throw away all my cards? And if Jesus showed up today and was like, "Hey, dump these in the trash can," you better believe I would. And so I sat with that for a minute and I was like, that's really not what this is. And at the time this was happening, I was working very closely with a past client of mine. She had graduated my one-on-one coaching, several of my group coaching programs, and she specializes in a modality called emotion code and body code, and this whole really beautiful modality, a variety of energy healing modalities. And interestingly enough, because of all these ties, she's been in my life for a very long time. She's worked closely with me. She's worked with my friend Bethany. So there's like all of these really cool ties. So I grab my phone and I use the messaging app, and her name is Gina. And I say, "Hey, Gina, you know I haven't been feeling well," because we've been working together really closely. And I said, "I just had this conversation with Bethany, and she said that I am living in darkness and something is trying to take my light. Can you help me look into this?" And she responded almost immediately. And she said, "This has to do with your move, the move that you and your family recently made." And she said, "And it has to do with the land that you're living on." So I'm standing here in my house hearing the reason I don't feel good and this darkness that I'm living in has to do with this home that we bought. And at the moment, I wanted to get in my car and drive really far away so I could feel better. And I knew that that wasn't necessarily possible in that moment. And to make matters worse, she's looking into the energy of the home. She's amazing. I love her. I highly recommend her. I would hire her again in a heartbeat. I will, and you all should too. But just sharing the full details of the story, she goes, "I have to tell you that as a healer, I don't feel comfortable looking into this. Like it feels really dark. Feels really dark. There is this interesting long driveway. Like where we live is very unique. It is the furthest thing from cookie cutter neighborhood you could possibly imagine. And there's this long driveway, and we live at the very top of the driveway. And she doesn't know this. She lives in a completely different state. She lives on the opposite side of the country. And she goes, "The driveway up to your house is known as the dark hole." Are you kidding me? Like, what are we even doing right now? So, to top it off, as I'm listening to her voice note, I'm staring at the window, staring at the driveway as I'm hearing these words. So she suggested that I reach out to other spiritual healers, like have a priest or a pastor come over and do some like crazy type of energy work, which I haven't done yet. I actually don't think is necessary. And so I was scared. And I got this intuitive nudge to reach out to a medium who I've worked with in the past. She has been there at really pivotal times of my life, and having her support was really helpful. So again, this is all happening within a few hours on April 1st. Brand new, brand new week, brand new month. If y'all remember, if you were impacted by the eclipses, it was right in the middle of these two eclipses. So like crazy things were happening, and the themes were like information being revealed. And that's exactly what was going on. So I got this intuitive nudge to reach out to this other healer. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be where everything comes together. And the interesting thing about this medium is that you typically you'll go to her calendar, and when you book, the soonest bookings available are typically 2 to 3 months out. It's April 1st. I click on her calendar. She has one opening. It's April 2nd. So I'm like, okay, great. So I booked this call the very next day, get on the call with her. And I don't know if you've ever done this, if you've ever met with a medium, they're like supposed to know, right? They're supposed to know things. And if you're going to pay for a medium, you don't want to give them all your information. So what I had said, again, really vulnerable here, I said, my family and I recently moved. We are questioning whether or not this move was the right thing for us to do. And also, I have not been feeling well. And I am interested in maybe going to seek like professional help and perhaps even taking medication, because at this point, all of the journaling, the affirmations, the cards, the exercising, the breath work, like all the things, all the tools that I knew to use, like none of them were helping. And this is not to say that like taking medication or seeking out professional help is a bad thing. I think it's a wonderful thing. And also, I was just trying to figure out what was best for me. So we are going through our session. I actually have my notes from our session. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to even like look at this. I have them right here. And so we're diving in, and she's not really like honing in on too much very quickly. And so I was feeling she's amazing, but I was feeling a little bit like, I wanted us to go in a certain direction, and we're not going there. And we start to get to the end of our session, and she starts asking me questions about the land. She said, I feel like there's darkness surrounding you. I kid you not, those were her exact words. I feel like there's darkness surrounding you. And I think it has to do with the move. And I instantly get chills all over. And she said that the land knows my heart and it knows my light, and that the land has been calling to me, which, fam, I'm super empathic. I'm a believer, highly intuitive, but the thought of land calling me, like that was not on my list of things that I ever wanted. And in that moment, I was feeling very conflicted, like a lot of things were coming up. And I had shared with the medium that we bought the house sight unseen, and that as beautiful as this home is, if I would have physically been here before we bought the house, that I would have said no. I would have stopped the sale of the house. And she said, you weren't supposed to see it. You basically, things needed to unfold so that I couldn't say no, so that I couldn't run away. That there is something about the land that orchestrated this chain of events. So the land knows your heart. The land knows your light. The land has been calling to you. Then she said something that like just sent me over the edge. She said, as you heal the land is going to heal you. And there was this instant, weirdly enough, this like instant sigh of relief. And it was, I mean, so many different feelings. And since then, this all happened at the time of this recording just about 2 months ago. There's been so many little moments And I had asked her, like, why me? Like, I'm a mom and I'm busy and all the things. And she said, the mother, the great mother, needs to be healed by a mother. And so as all of these things are unfolding, I started to feel this very powerful, undeniable shift from literal terror. You guys, I was afraid to be here. Like, I did not want to be anywhere near this home and this so-called land. And within 24 hours of all of this being revealed, I started to feel really empowered. I started to feel like, okay, well, if this is what the land needs, and if the land called me here, then I'm willing to do what it takes. And I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that takes. So there are so many bookmarks on my browser of like how to heal the land and rituals and prayers. And I am officially now a member of an incredible program called the Earth Tenders Academy, which sounds so crazy because just a few months ago, I would never have entertained signing up for anything like that, but I'm really excited. We're in the very early stages of what it looks like to be an earth tender. I've had one of my clients, she's amazing. She identifies as a green witch, meaning someone who works very closely with the land, who feels very connected with the land. So she came to my home and helped me do a beautiful blessing, helped me understand a little bit more about what has been going on with the land. And what's been so interesting, when we talk about the great mother, we talk about Mother Earth and Mother Nature, there's something that, as I've been sharing this behind the scenes with friends and with loved ones, they've asked, what are you going to do? And there's been little things that I'm planning on doing, some things I've already done, but I can feel an energetic shift. Like literally as I'm standing here, I'm recording this from my home, from said land, and it already feels different. And a piece of me, I'm going to venture to guess that like 99% of our DKC Pod Squad listeners are female. I think all she wanted was to know that someone understood, that like someone understood her pain and her grief and her sadness. And she just wanted to be acknowledged. She wanted to be seen. She wanted to be heard. And so I think that there's this, like, at this point, this energetic agreement between us of like, I, Dani, don't exactly know right now in this moment, like how to heal the land, but I'm going to do everything I can to try. And I remember that agreement and that quiet commitment that I made to myself, and almost feeling like there was this energetic sigh of relief underneath my feet. And that's the other thing too, I want to share. Me having been on this journey, and so much of my personal work and what I teach my clients around mindset and energy and intuition, although I was scared, it was just because there was a lot of unknown. I want to say, like, very explicitly that this is not an instance of like where I think I knew right away I was not in harm's way. My children were not in harm's way. There was nothing dangerous or malicious. I've never had that experience. I know that there are like paranormal experiences out there. I'm really grateful I haven't had any of those, where it might be a different story. But this was really the experience of what I was feeling in my body. That density, I would describe it as sadness and grief, and I couldn't figure out why. And what the medium, that was the other piece, the medium explained that although I was not consciously aware of what was happening, my body and the land had already started working together. And because I wasn't equipped with the tools, my body was absorbing what the land was holding. And so that sadness and that heaviness and that pain and the randomly crying all the time and not knowing why was me feeling what the land was feeling. And so having that information, having that distinction and that awareness, I was then able to lean on many of the tools that I use. So I do daily grounding practices. I'm running my energy. I'm protecting my energy. So there is an up level in the energetic hygiene that is happening. And again, I feel like this journey is far from over. I do feel like there's a lot more that I can do, and maybe a lot more that she being the land that we live on, a lot more that she wants and that she needs. But even just having this new information, this awareness, and me knowing not only how to start helping her, but more than anything, first and foremost, how to take care of, protect my own energy has made a world of a difference. So I feel like we covered, I really wanted to share, I wanted to record this in its totality because there were so many little pieces of this story. And I know that the further away that I get from this story, those little distinctions are going to start to dissolve. I will never, for as long as I live, forget this experience. But I wanted to be able to capture this from start to finish. And as I continue the journey of healing the land, gosh, there's so many other pieces here. This will have to be like a 2-part or a 3-parter because this feels like a really good place to wrap up. But as I continue this journey, I will continue to share it with you. And I hope more than anything that you find this informative. Maybe you find it helpful, perhaps inspiring. Maybe you or someone you know can relate to this. And I feel like one of the other takeaways is just understanding the power of energy and everything that's around us. And for those of you who are empaths, meaning deep feelers, and I've noticed, I didn't know this in the beginning, but because I've been doing this work now for over a decade, I find that I naturally attract other highly intuitive, empathic women, whether they have unlocked their intuitive gifts yet or not. I attract people who are deep feelers. And when you're heart centered, there's often times when you pick up energy that is not yours, whether you pick it up from the land or you pick it up from being at the airport or from a family gathering. And so let this also be a reminder of just being hyper aware, not necessarily like hyper vigilant, but bringing an elevated sense of awareness to how you feel moment by moment. Doing some body scans, leveraging things like journaling to get to the bottom of what's going on, to start to be able to feel into what is actually yours and what might you have picked up from somewhere, someone, or something outside of you. And if you identify as being someone who is an empath, who is highly intuitive, a highly sensitive person, these are not the same, but they're all similar. You can be one or you can be all of these. If you don't already have some powerful energetic practices in place, this is a really great time to start learning about what those can look like. And we can record a separate episode on that. But energetic hygiene, I used to think that was such a funny term, but it is so important. Knowing how to protect, how to ground, and how to cleanse your own energy is so, so powerful. So I love you all, and I will see you next time.